come on.
Actually, we can quit using Discord.
There we go. I think we are.
Are we on?
We are live. Go.
Oh, great.
I think. Why is chat disabled for this stream? It should not be. How do I? It's public. Live chat is disabled. Oh, I think it's because I say it's made for kids, so shit. No, it's not made. Save. Live chat. There we go. I think we may be able to. There we go. Alright. I think we may be able to. Alright. Sorry about that.
I'm assuming we're live now.
Yes, we are live. Sorry, I had to set some stuff up. Hey, everybody. Today, on this glorious day on my glorious name day, and I've turned 27, I decided apparently the best way to celebrate is with some random Indian guy I found on the internet. Say hello, Meme Friar.
Hi.
How you doing?
Well, I'm fine. First of all, let me wish you a very happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, well, 27 is a good age to be. I turned 27 not all that long ago myself.
Oh, yeah. we're the boomers of our, autistic internet sphere.
This is true, yes.
If someone says you're very low, I think I can turn you down on my end, but you can still be loud for rest of it.
Okay.
Or let me turn up.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just deal with it. All right, Chad. I turned him up. I think it should be good. So, I guess we can talk a bit about a lot of different stuff. I'm thinking I want to start out with, if you wouldn't mind, because I know a little bit about you. I spied on you in Argent's streams, and so you're a Bengal Brahmin convert to Catholicism. So how does a Hindu Brahmin from Bengal decide to cross the Tiber to Rome?
Well, believe it or not, it all started with my dad bringing home the Windows 98 second edition CD. It's like way back in 2003. And I must have been 9 years old then. I just turned 9, and in that CD he said, "Oh look, there's this trial version of Age of Empires on it." And
Age of Empires 2 or 1?
So the expansion, the Rise of Rome expansion for Age of Empires 1, because Age of Empires 2 wouldn't come out until like 1999, and this was and I think Windows Second Edition came out before Age of Empires 2 came out. Now, so that's how I got started on studying history, and from that my interest expanded.
They're saying they still
studying philosophy.
Hold on one sec. I just need to check. Can I hear you on the stream?
My interest expanded.
They're saying they still
studying philosophy.
Hold on. Okay, yeah, it sounds good.
Okay, great.
Sorry for the interruption. So you're playing Age of Empires
that's fine.
2 or 1 again?
So Age of Empires 1. So
yes.
The Rise of Rome expansion to the first Age of Empires. So so that's how it started. That's how all of my internet autism started. So I started playing Age of Empires. I started learning about European history, right? So
looking to your true Aryan past.
Yes. My first funnily enough, the first campaigns I played was as the Semitic Carthaginians against the heavy-handed Roman rule of the Mediterranean. which is what the trial version of Rise of Rome had. So it was the first Punic War. It was the Battle of Mylae, and then Battle of Tunis, and so on and so forth. And so that's how my interest in history started. And by the time I was 11 or 12, it had blossomed to the degree that I was reading Indian philosophy, so Indian religious philosophy, and in addition to the regular history stuff that I'd been reading nonstop pretty much since I was 9 years old. And so over time, I started identifying as a type of Hindu Gnostic. So I was kind of a monist, if that makes sense. So it was a combination of Pelagianism and Arianism and all of that. Yeah, well, Arianism not with a Y,
yeah,
but
with an I. The one that Saint Nicholas belted in the mouth.
Yeah, well, I was an Arian heretic and a Gnostic heretic for about 7 years, 6.5, 7 years, until I was nearly 19 years old. So I had been a heretic before ever I was.
Well, can you even be a it's like you went from being a heathen to being, slightly less of a heathen, because you didn't call yourself a Christian at first. You just went from being a pagan to a
Neoplatonist who had basically lost his marbles, right? So I went from being a pagan to being a Gnostic, which is basically a pagan who pats himself on the back for not being a pagan.
Well, at least they have cool stuff like the Demiurge or something. If nothing else, it sounds cool.
It sounds cool, but it's actually kind of lame. And I went to church for the first time in 2014. So this was like a couple of months before Christmas of 2014.
Was it a Catholic church?
Yes, a Catholic church. Now, the thing is that I'd been reading history like nonstop ever since I was 9 years old. And once you start getting into history, or at least as much as I got into it, you kind of start noticing patterns, right? You
What was the general history?
Oh, you mean the kind of history I read?
Yeah.
So it was primarily history of the world and of Western Europe in particular, from the classical ages to the early modern age. That was one of the areas in which I had read a lot, and those parts of modern history that I read usually tended to concern industrial history and 20th century, late 19th century to late 20th century military history. So it was this specific kind of autism. Yeah.
Because I remember when I'd always been interested in history, and when I was a teenager, I kind of went full on wereaboo, where not a Nazi, but I read all of Heinz Guderian's the German general's book. I read his biography. I read like several other accounts from Germans on the Eastern Front, and like and then it eventually led to, because for me, like, my obsession with the Kingdom of Prussia kind of started, ironically enough, also with video games when I played Empire Total War, and I'm like, who am I going to play as? And I'm like, do I play as Poland, Lithuania? What the hell is that? Prussia? Well, I know Russia's a thing. I don't know what Prussia is. I'm like, well, they've got a cool looking flag. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is Prussia, and they're like the last based country.
Yeah. It was my conversion followed a similar trajectory. So it was reading history, reading philosophy and theology, playing autistic games like
your autistic map simulators, map painting games.
So the Total War games, some Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization.
There are far worse people than Sid Meier. Sid Meier is a very nice. Is like in all the end reviews seems like a very nice.
He's
man.
A great guy. Yeah,
he's a Christian too, or it's like he goes to church.
He made a bunch of pretty good games for us.
Mm-hmm. And like if people don't know, is like the iconic theme from Civilization 4 is just the Lord's Prayer but sung in Swahili.
Yep. The Baba Yetu.
Yep.
I think it's called.
And
set to music by this Asiatic guy. Called
Christopher Tin. Yeah.
Yes, Christopher Tin. Yeah.
But you went to church for the first time in 2014.
Yeah, I went to church for the first time in 2014, and this was about a couple of years after I had started reading Chesterton, and after I had started reading Tolkien as well. Now, so when I look back, my conversion, it didn't seem so at the time, but in retrospect, it does seem to be. It seems to have been the logical conclusion of certain threads of belief. So I had been, instinctively very conservative ever since I was 8 or 9 years old, right? I hated the Indian nationalist movement. I hated it. I love the Brits, wanted them back.
Yep. I was gonna guess you're probably not a big fan of Gandhi.
Oh, no, fuck him.
Yeah, I think of this as that I consider he's one of the big reasons why Saint Teresa of Calcutta had to do all of that work, because the British would have made India a lot better off had they stayed.
Yeah. I mean, like, at the very least, I don't know what point there is in thinking in terms of counterfactuals like this, because things there are so many factors. Like we can't even tell the weather, and the weather is just a set of
wind patterns
that don't have free will. Whereas, I mean, counterfactuals, like a counterfactual causal chain retains coherence for like a few seconds, right? From a particular point of departure.
My overall point, though, is just, we agree Gandhi was probably not good for India.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, so I'm well, so...
You hate the stupid Indian flag and wish you had the British Raj with the...
Yes! I fucking hate the Indian flag so much.
It's got a stupid wheel on it. It has a spinning wheel.
Yeah.
That's like the gayest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it looks pretty ugly, doesn't it? It doesn't appeal to any innate sense of nobility, right?
No.
It's the flag of a nation of spiritual cockroaches, right? These are these are pretty strong words, but I said what I said. I'm not taking them back.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
But becoming Catholic.
Yeah, well, becoming Catholic, right? So, my natural political conservatism, right? So, I was instinctively always oriented towards the things that the forms of social organization, the forms of historical consciousness, and the forms of political disposition that you would call based and red-pilled, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these did not have any. These did not really have much of a basis for me personally than a mere statement of preference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, I was instinctively drawn to feudal social structures. I didn't know why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reading about the European Middle Ages provided some answers, but it wasn't until my attention was drawn to the church and to what the church actually said about human anthropology and its relation to God, really, the theocentric nature of
creation
and the theocentric orientation of all human activity, whether or not that consciousness that we are actually theocentric creatures, regardless of whether or not that is in abeyance at that particular time. When by the grace of God I began to realize these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things started to make more and more sense to me. I was then gradually came to a position of understanding why I believed the things I believed in. And then when you combine that with the aesthetic choices, the aesthetic and the justifications of reason that the Christian apologists started to provide for me, right? Mm-hmm. That was the point when I started to read the Church Fathers. Chesterton, he figured very, very prominently at that time as John Henry Newman and so on and so forth. Right? Bunch of late 19th century, early 20th century Catholic intellectuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
the ones whom the tweeds, as you've said, have kind of stolen.
Yes, but I'm the kind of guy who actually goes past. So when I read Brideshead Revisited, right? Because tweed cocks, they read so little, so everyone gets stuck at the Oxford University passages, but that's only like the first 1/3 of the book, right?
Mm-hmm. So, in brief, you and your friend Torellian have kind of made this idea, or you've kind of coined the phrase like a tweed trad, and from what I gather, it's like somebody that tweed kind of referencing them like, oh, we want to dress like traditionalists, like wearing an old tweed suit, and like we like stuff from Chesterton when he's talking about cheese and like these like kind of fanciful stuff, but then they don't like talk about the fact that he literally has a quote where he says it's a shame that politicians aren't hanged more, and he has like this one of my favorite diatribe or rants of his is basically like a pro-socialism rant where he's like, a little, to paraphrase, like he speaks of like there's a little girl with red hair, and that's a little girl with pretty long red hair is a inherently good thing, And the thing is, in order for her to have that, her mother should be able to cut and clean her hair. In order for her mother to be able to do that, she should have enough leisure time, so she shouldn't work. And in order for that to happen, she shouldn't have usurious landlords. And because we shouldn't have usurious landlords, we needed a complete revolution and massive change to how our economy works, and we shall bring down the entire social structure because not one hair on our head will be touched. And you'll have people it's like, but no, we have to still worship the free market.
Exactly, yeah. So one of the things about the tweet threads is that they're occupied primarily with aesthetic presentation. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that they're occupied with is respectability. Now, respectability as regards whom? It's
the people that despise them.
Funnily enough, yes, exactly.
That's the thing is
sort of academic respectability that they assume someone like, let's say, Peter Kraft has, or Robert P. George has, or Adrian Vermeulen has, right? Mm-hmm. Now the thing that they don't get is that, and I'm speaking as someone who has been in academia, say, this student for the past nearly 9 years, because because I graduated from high school in July of 2012.
Okay, so we're basically the same age.
Yeah, we are. So, as someone who does know academia inside out, pretty much, what these tweet threads, what they don't understand is that in their attempts to square the circle of their faith and the libtard atmosphere and the libtard audience that they're putting on the show for, right? In doing that, they lose both the respect of the people that they're ostensibly pandering to, and their own and the integrity of their own faith.
And
right?
Yeah, and an example I would have been thinking is that, hey, being pro-life is actually the real pro-feminism, or something stupid like that. Whereas,
let's talk about Twitter personalities, because that's what we are these days. Mm-hmm. That's where most of the discourse is.
I used to make YouTube videos
based in Red Pill. But yeah, I mean, looking at someone like Matthew Scarince, or however the hell else you say his name, what he's gonna say is, "Oh man, you don't get it, but the traditional Catholic Church under the based Habsburgs, they were actually the real anti-racists. They were actually the real, actually based Catholic and multinational empire. Okay, if we want to be true to these principles of tolerance and diversity, then we all need to be TLM attending Catholics, right? Under a based system like the Habsburg Empire. Now the thing is, not only is that not historically accurate. I believe my friend Terrellian has spoken at length about it, and in any case, we are going to be recording. So once I'm through with this, I will probably be on the next episode of Cafe in Taberna, where we'll be discussing exactly this problem. So not only is that historically inaccurate, but these idiots, they don't see that conceding even more to the people who hate, detest, and wish for the death of them, conceding discursive primacy to them, right? The moment you concede the power of your own discourse, and the moment you start talking, and the moment you start framing your problems in the terms that they want you to think in, you are trapped, because you cannot concede enough, right? Because their own logic is merciless, okay? They will tell you, and there's no defense against this, that why do we need to go back to, let's say, the Habsburg social system or the Austro-Hungarian multi-ethnic imperial structure, when we can have the very same thing, the very same aims, the very same aims can be achieved through voluntary participation or voluntary reorganization into transsexual gulags that are enforced by lesbian commissars, right? So if you want, racial, ethnic diversity and freedom, it's much easier to just
be a progressive.
Yeah. Than it is to do what, let's say Adrian Vermeulen and other fed cats like him, like Michael Lofton, or as I said, Matthew Scarince. I am not responsible for what this man says. I am not making any claims. He can say whatever he wants, but they do not reflect. They do not reflect Fritz Imperial's channel. So. Oh yeah.
I'm mostly kidding. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, it's just that. It's just that. Since most of academia is filled with cloud chasers and strivers and people who just want respect and want recognition, they can smell people similar to them. Right?
There's
they
a very
can smell
early
them from like a mile off.
There should be a very early lesson people should learn is you should never want to seek respect from people that hate you.
Exactly.
Like, there's the meme, right? The is it Carl Schmitt or whoever, the friend-enemy distinction, and that just seems to be becoming more and more true. Like, to be honest, I really think that, like, with the Canadian churches burning and all that, at some point it's like, well, we need more dialogue. We need to, and it's just like at this point, we don't need a dialogue. We need the damn Free Corps back to protect from Antifa. We need guys, singing Freikorps Voran in steel helmets that are gonna make the the soy boys in Antifa black blocs wet their pants. I don't seek out violence, but to take a quote from Medieval to Total War Crusades. Though the Bible may preach peace, when it is Christendom itself that is under threat.
Yeah.
And it makes me, and there seems to be just this like Stockholm syndrome attachment by a lot of Catholics, prominent Catholics, towards the American liberal democratic system and traditions.
Yes.
Even when it's like, it seems to be like the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, even if somehow something happened in which, like, they were going to be delivered, like, hey, if you just say yes, we can go all you have to do is accept this, and America will now be structured as a Catholic, feudal monarchy. I still think we would get rid of abortion, we would get rid of, progressive degeneracy, we would get rid of anti-Catholic biases. They would still say no, because it's like,
see, that's the thing, right? It's not that there are no people on the ground who are unwilling to do the dirty work. It's that
Frankly, it's freeing ourselves from
for the
modernism.
USCCB as a whole, right? Calling their bluff and just saying, masks off, gloves off, let's do it, let's fucking go, right?
Yeah.
That is not an option for them. Now, the reasons for that
it's because they want to continue to be invited to, Mayor de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo's dinner parties. They want to be at like the White House Correspondents' dinners, so they can, Cardinal Dolan can be dressed up and be, oh look, I'm the fun cardinal here, just eating with all these, disgusting parasitic demons.
Yes, these demons in human form, these demons in meat suits.
Yes. If you look at these people, they don't even look. They make the jokes about it, but like leftism really does make you stop looking like a human.
Yeah, the guys on Sallow Forum were right. Human biodiversity is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hakan was right all along. BAP was right. See, there's a thing about BAP, right? There are a bunch of people.
I'm sorry to get the idea, though. He's probably not a good person, Bronze Age pervert.
Oh,
the central.
I will not claim to know the state of BAP's soul, but I know that he's not Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's not a Catholic, but BAP does pass the friend-enemy distinction with flying colors. Let me say that he is. If shit goes down, BAP will have your back. You cannot say the same of someone like Steve Skojek, right?
Mm-hmm.
But BAP will have your back. He knows loyalty.
I mean, this is the thing, is like there's all the stuff about the January 6th coalition incident, and I'm still, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like, I wasn't involved with it, but I was thinking, this could have just been the start of the revolution, But then, of course,
this could have been the start of something so beautiful. But
I still kind of love the idea. The last revenge of Dixie before they destroy all of the statues is the Confederate flag finally flies in the Capitol building, and politicians finally get spooked, and then like Bishop Barron, who generally I think is a force for good, but obviously he's the one I'm talking about of like just addicted to maintaining American liberalism. Saying, even him calling it a sacred temple of democracy. No, it's a temple to Satan.
The thing about Bishop Barron is, and a lot of these people. So yes, Cardinal Dolan, Bishop Barron, and all of the other based adjacent, because Bishop Barron isn't a friend of the traditionalists, right? So I'm just calling him based adjacent.
He's at least Catholic, though.
He's at least Catholic. But the thing is, right, sometimes or before a Varg destroyed internet paganism, right? Before Varg single-handedly dismantled internet paganism, some of the Wotan worshippers would say, "Oh man, you Christians are filled with guys in dresses like old ladies," and
aren't these the same people? Aren't these the same people that love how the Norse Vikings were gay?
Yeah, but
this is the bizarre thing.
Ignoring that lack of consistency, right?
It's like another one I have to point out is the fact that a lot of them are like, well, we're not, because you go on the other hand with it's odd. It's like this odd horseshoe theory type, like galaxy brain 4D chess, where like you have the neo-pagans will be extremely racist, But then also you have a lot of neo-pagans not very far off who say, racism is an affront to the Allfather, and yet they'll also still say, you worship a Jew on a stick. So it's like, okay, so, we hate all racism except when it comes...
We hate racism except blacks and Jews. That's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're going to add an... Right? Yeah. Or like... Yeah.
But the thing is that... The point I was trying to make at first was that, the old 2006, 2007-ish neo-pagan charge that Christianity is a religion of old ladies and old men in skirts and dresses.
I mean,
right?
Mother Angelica was an old lady, and she was probably one of the most, strongest force of personalities we've seen.
But in the case of some of the bishops, the charge does stick. A lot of these bishops they're not exactly brave. Okay, they're not willing to what's the expression, throw their dice.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really willing to just call their bluff and let's say, okay, I have 30-40 million faithful Catholics who will back me up, and because this happened. I'm not going to provide many details because I don't want to dox myself, but this happened with me last year because of the lockdowns, right? Now the priests, they could have kept the church open, right? They could have spoken to their bishops to keep the churches open for mass and confession for a period of a couple of months, but they didn't, because the churches, the bishops, they said, okay, we're gonna go along with this. We're gonna go along with this very transparent attempt at social engineering and this very transparently fraudulent attempt at a power grab, right?
Mm-hmm.
They went along with it, and we're living with the consequences even now, right? So it's not so much
something again, like, I am a Catholic, because I saw somebody says bash your bishop without humility in the chat. Like, no, look, I fully respect and accept and believe in the full authority and powers on all of the bishops and clergy and all of that. It's like, I think Father James Martin is a completely legitimate priest. I just think he's a really bad priest. But it's making me think, like, it's a criticism I have of Bishop Barron or a lot of these boomer Catholics who are like, we've all become, like, our culture's so secularized, and it's like kind of saying, look, you the lady, you've got to fix this, and it's like, you're not taking any responsibility for a lot of stuff that you let happen. The abuses that happen.
Didn't Nick Sandman, I think that kid's name was, who was at the March for Life, and he was just smirking. I'm smirking at this
Indian. The other kind.
Yeah, feather, not dot in this case.
Yes.
I am a dot Indian, the guy that.
Well, no, you're not a dot because you're not Hindu.
Well, racially, right?
You are a based glorious Indo-EV European.
Yeah. Indo-European. Yeah, so the thing is, like, didn't his own parish priest, like, throw him under the bus or something?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than even an accusation of racism. That is the only sin that has ever existed and is ever going. There are literally like evangelicals or progressive Protestants in America that, like, they basically condemn all white people to hell because they say that having white privilege is a sin. But of course, this is like being racist is like the one is like that's the only and we're not even talking about like actively going, I'm going to go out and lynch a black person. Because someone's going to take that out of context. I don't think people should do that because that's wrong. But so we're not even talking about like actual racism. We're talking about like, you know, I want less immigration, or I am just a person of European descent trying to exist. They will say, you have privileged sin. Okay, can I get that absolved? Well, no, obviously not. So basically they're just saying all white people have a sin that can never be absolved. Yes. And I think that's about the most evil thing I can think of.
It's the one sin that lies in the heart of every white European.
But this is the thing, right? Is because people don't understand it people don't understand history and the fact that Europe was almost entirely white until like 50 years ago, and it's like, sure, like it's like, you know. Like, because I've been getting into... Because I want to transition into talking about, like, Tolkien and culture and stuff like that. But, like I'm getting into H.P. Lovecraft now. And, of course, the big thing is that everyone hates him because of how racist he was. And the thing is, you know, even for the time... But the thing is, this man grew up in the early 1900s in Rhode Island. He probably had never seen a black person before. And so, like... Sure, he could be racist.
That's why he named his cat what he did.
But the thing is, it's like, my point is that, maybe he was racist, but like he didn't really have anybody to be racist against. It's like you went if you were like in 1910 and you went to like Hamburg or something, and you're like, hey, what do you think about like race relations? And like Hans is gonna go, I don't know. I've only seen other hamburgers for my whole life.
Exactly. Yeah,
this just isn't something I care about.
That's
it's the idea that
that's kind of the thing, right? Now, you know, there are some who would say that I am incredibly racist myself.
You're brown, so you're allowed to be.
Well, I mean, in India though, I have the original sin of being a Brahmin.
Ah, yes.
So I'm basically a white man so far as India goes. Now, I don't know how that makes me feel because I'm kind of the white man of brown men. So, but even so, the same...
the thing is, like, if I see, like stuff from, like, Indian TV or Indian media, the people that they always try and portray is, like, they always try and portray the people that have, like, the lightest skin and, like, they have their, like, hair dyed light brown, so they look as white as possible.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, though, that's reflects nothing more than the average Indian person's idea of what beauty is. You know, just 70-80 years of constant pro lower caste, pro Dalit, pro Muslim propaganda, pro race mixing, anti-caste propaganda, notwithstanding Hrithik Roshan, right, who basically looks like someone from Greece or someone from, let's say, northern Italy maybe, or a particularly handsome Spaniard. He's one of the top movie stars, and people are okay with that. And he's internationally recognized as well as recognized nationally as a very handsome man, and people are okay with it. But reading things from there's this a lady called I think her name is called Nandita Das or something. I'm not exactly sure. She would have you believe that oh man, no, we need to hammer it in every chance we get that dark-skinned people are actually as beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but who's your target audience, right? If she's speaking to westernized libtards who live in Bombay or Delhi or Calcutta, they already agree with her. So
Wait, you're not going to say Kolkata?
No, I'm not going to say Kolkata. I say Kolkata only when I'm speaking in Bengali.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'll keep on saying Calcutta. I don't care what people
British
think.
Empire, it was based. It was the best thing that ever happened in India.
Yes. So the thing is, like, yeah, they already believe Nandita Das. They hate themselves, and they hate the color of their skin, and they hate what they were born as. But they want to retain the privilege, but they want, signal that they hate the privilege that they were born with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically just degeneracy and hypocrisy. Structurally, it's the same as the East Coast occupational class, as BAP says, not the elite. And I think that's a very important stand to take. BAP says that he refuses to call these people elites because they're not. They're
low scum.
They're low scum. They're subhuman filth. What he calls them instead is the occupational clique, and I think that's a very fair way of describing them.
Mm-hmm. But I was going to say, these are the same people, to kind of bring it back to literature. It's that it's you talk about Tolkien and the fact that I think Distributus made a point where he's like, Tolkien, if he was alive today, would probably be disgusted by 90% of his fans, and it's just the same. And it'd be even more true with Lovecraft. It's like you have these people, they love Lovecraft's storytelling because he was a good storyteller, and but like oh, sorry, it's my phone. Like they love him because they kind of see themselves as him. The East Coast, young liberal atheist that's like talking about like, ooh, he would have shopped at Hot Topic maybe back in the day. He or at least he would have. They want to see themselves as the kind of edgy, creative type. And like, oh, look, and it also appeals to the fart sniffing, people that masturbate, that ideologically masturbate to the idea of cosmic insignificance. Yeah. Like, oh, the universe, space big, God not real. Yeah. Somebody even posted in the chat, he was disgusted by his fans when he was alive. He was just disgusted by other people. I heard that his wife had to bribe him with like books in order for him to sleep with her. Because he just hated the idea. Red pill. That's the kind of relationship I want. He just thought the idea of he was like he just thought the idea of like touching other people was just disgusting, and like
man, he's just like me.
Yeah, but in any case, like, yeah, the same people that like they want to be like Lovecraft. Yeah. Absolutely hate everything he represented of being a white upper class, New Englander who was extremely racist.
The funniest thing is that, Lovecraft had strong opinions, but I don't think they ever really, reached the point of dogma, right? Or doctrine with him. And
he was just a writer of like weird horror stories. I don't think he saw himself bigger than that.
Yeah, I don't think he even conceived of his own work as being more than that. Right? He didn't even really get famous until after he died. And it's funny is like, but speaking on the cosmic insignificance, it's bizarre that like people like that part of it because like. I know he was an atheist, but like he still like he wrote stuff like, oh, the elder gods, are coming, or these incomprehensible beings. He wrote that to scare people, not to be like, hey, let's masturbate all over, we're so insignificant, and it's just bizarre. And I think that's right, yeah. It's true.
And you have a similar thing of like fans hijacking Tolkien as well. Like, or it's, I think the biggest thing with Lovecraft is there was like some HBO show or something called Lovecraft County, which is just literally like, okay, they're gonna make Lovecraft's dystopia in which black people take over a whole bunch of the country, and like, but like, it's like they're still owing a debt to somebody that they absolutely despise. And then it's like with Tolkien, like you have the thing where they're just desperately saying, no, Frodo and Sam were gay. Frodo and Sam were gay. Like, they're just like going crazy because like that's like the thing they can't get it because they don't own Lord of the Rings.
They cannot get it. They cannot get.
They can't sink their claws.
Is right.
No, that and like it's something they just can't sink their claws into, and use critical literary theory into.
I'm gonna say this, and you have the right to quote me on this. No charge.
Sure.
No royalties. Their line of sight, when it comes to male friendship, their line of sight is blocked by their prolapsed anuses. Okay.
Yes.
It's weeping with sores, and they cannot see past that. They cannot see past their prolapsed anus when it comes to male friendship. So that's
because
why
they don't have any friends.
Because they only understand the butthole, and that's literally it.
They can't.
Nothing else.
Yeah, and
yeah, they just cannot look past that.
Because the people that write this are soy boys who are either gay or they're only friends with women.
Yeah, and not even just regular, normal, healthy women.
No,
I'm talking
journalists.
Yeah, journalists. Yes, someone like Kathy Reisenwitz, who is a journalist as well as someone with an OnlyFans account.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, well, given the last name, we don't have to look up their early life.
No. We don't. It's not necessary at all.
But like with Tolkien, and because like I have to admit, and Pete, you're going to crucify me for this. I am actually mildly interested in the fact that they're making an anime movie about the Rohirrim, because I know the director. I don't know him personally, but the director, the guy who's the director, has done a lot of good stuff, including like my favorite series of all time. And like, I'm thinking maybe anime could do like a cool one-off, but some Amazon series is going to be shit. And the thing is like, it's that point of Lord of the Rings. I'm a lot more familiar with the movies. Like, I'm trying to. I have so much, backlog of books to read that I just want to finally get through Lord of the Rings, because I've, when I was a kid, my dad's a huge fan. We have like all of like his works, like his collection of them from when he was growing up, and like, would read them all the time. Oh, my favorite anime series is Eden of the East. That's what I was talking about. But anyways, so, like, my dad read to me and my brother The Hobbit when we were kids, and then, like, I've read Lord of the Rings. I got through the first book and then the half of Two Towers. And, speaking of Two Towers, after 9/11 hit, there was actually a campaign to get them to change the name of the movie from Two Towers, because it was in 2002 that one came out, and they're like, you can't call it that. But it's like, that was what the book was called in the 40s. Yeah. But... in any case, I love.
So what would they've changed the name to? Like Lord of the Rings WTC7?
Yes.
Is that
Lord of the Rings inside job? But
Barad-dûr was an inside job.
But the speaking of, but anyways, my point is, I love those movies. Those are my favorite movies of all time, and I think given the problems that they have, it's still probably the best Hollywood, adaptation of that you could have gotten, considering, because, just like, and I've watched all the behind the scenes stuff of it, and you can just tell how much everybody loved making that movie and actually had a passion for it, and all the people involved. Like, one of my favorite moments is when they're doing like kind of pre-production shoots, and they're at the area in New Zealand where they're going to shoot Hobbiton before they made all the sets. Like, they got in two of the concept artists that like made illustrations for like the 1970s release of the books, Alan Lee and John Howe, and like, you know, like Alan Lee was just this kind of recluse in like southwest England, and they just kind of, they had to like send him like, oh, here's some of Peter Jackson's weird movies, like, hey, will you work on our movie? And like they sit him down, and like the two just seem naturally like just like in their element, and just quietly just start sketching out stuff in Hobbiton. And like there's another great moment where because on Alan Lee's illustration for the cover of Two Towers shows Orthanc, just kind of the bottom third of Orthanc around the entrance. And like Peter Jackson kind of got to live out his fantasy of like, I always wanted to see what the whole thing looked like. Hey, Alan Lee finished that, and he made that big, beautiful obsidian tower, which is shown right here, you know, on the stream. Is my favorite scene is the Ents going full Ted Kaczynski and, you know, destroying industrial civilization.
Yep. The filth of Saruman is
washing away.
Yes.
And but it made, I remember you talking with Arjun just about how the idea of you know, hobbits are not like, as much as it seems like they have an ideal life, it's like the hobbits are good.
No, they don't.
I mean, it seems like a nice place to live.
Seriously, does anyone even remember Lobelia Sackville Baggins? They're like, she was a terrible neighbor to have, right?
Isn't she constantly trying to rob them?
Exactly.
You know, it's weird. It's weird in that Hobbiton, it seems like it's a place where it's a small, tight-knit, homogenous community, yet it's not really high trust at all, because everyone's trying to screw each other over. Or everyone is exceedingly petty.
Villages are like, that's it.
They were exceedingly petty. And it's like, even though like the landscape seems very idyllic, and like everyone talks about, oh, we want to have a hobbit party, it's like, well, like, but like the hobbits don't like make anything. Like they it's not like Gondor where you have these massive cities, or it's not like, you know, the dwarves. Like my favorite kind of character outside of it is or like, and my favorite song is the song of Durin the Deathless, you know. Just building this incredible Art Deco cities of stone.
Art Deco cities.
No, it's like somebody who's shown like the aesthetic style of Art Nouveau from the early 1900s looks very much kind of like elven, an elven art style, and then like Art Deco looks like dwarven.
Yeah. So the I guess the reason why Hobbit society, even though it looks alluring from the outside, is not actually perfect, because the taint of Melkor, right? Mm-hmm. And the effects of original sin persist in the Shire as well. So, like, there is going to be decay. There is going to be death, even in the most beautiful of places. It's gonna persist in the Shire as well. Aragorn knew this, and yeah, I mean that sense of loss, that sense of decay, that sense of fading and lessening over time, that is a sensation that is so deeply rooted in a theistic understanding. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say, no, not even necessarily theistic. It's just, it requires you to be so spiritually sensitive, right? And it requires you to be subject to humility. It needs that you be humble, right? Mm-hmm. Needs you to be humble, right? And that is one of the things that will be lost in any Amazon production, and indeed in any of the more recent pastiches of Tolkien. So George R. Martin, right, the Song of Ice and Fire, that same sensitivity to that loss, that decay, that increase of entropy.
Because in a lot of ways, Lord of the Rings is a tragedy. Because like even though everything, it's like I mean, it's kind of what Elrond says, right? Where he's like, even if everything you want comes to pass, to Arwen, like even if Aragorn becomes king, Sauron's defeated, the ring's destroyed, everything is perfect. Death and decay is still happening, and beyond that, it's the fact that magic is still kind of draining and is leaving Middle Earth, and it's kind of like Tolkien's idea of like all the magic of the world, like how the world used to be so much bigger and it used to be so much grander, but now industrialization, modernization is kind of is squeezing that out.
I mean, it's not even industrialization. It's just the passage of time. So the way I see it, right, is that there's a certain quantum of mana, for the lack of a better word, that isn't replenished. That the existence of elves and dwarves and creatures and beings of low entropy that can preserve their low entropy, that can preserve their states of low entropy over time. There's a certain stock, there's a certain minimal threshold of mana that needs to be on Middle Earth for those kinds of creatures and those kinds of societies to exist, right? And that mana doesn't get replenished because it's one of the effects of the marring of Arda by the spirit of Melkor, of Morgoth. Although I don't know whether this wouldn't have happened, whether this decay would not have happened had the elves not sinned so grievously.
What was their big sin? Because I am not anywhere near as familiar with Tolkien as you are.
So basically the sin, right, would be it would be the kinslaying, most of all, which the Fëanorians committed against other elves, because elves, right? So imagine elves as basically like slender Hyperboreans, so they're like Hyperboreans with a certain destiny different from that of the actual Hyperboreans, who are the who are actually the people of Numenor. Right. Now the thing with elves is that they can see, they can feel the sacred, they can see a soul, right? They can see that, they know instinctively. It's for them, it's a very direct apprehension of the sacredness of matter and so on. They know very well that what they're doing is wrong or what they're doing is right. So they have a very heightened sense of moral realities. Now, the greater elves, the high elves, the ones that had seen the light of the two trees, they had this awareness, this sensitivity to spiritual realities to a much greater degree than the lesser elves, the Avari, or the grey elves, or the elves that had not seen the light of the trees or had not remained in sustained contact with the elves who had seen the light of the trees. Once you have such a powerful and such a knowledgeable set of beings commit atrocities against their own kinsmen who were similarly gifted, right? The sin, right, the punishment that accrues is much greater than the punishment that such an act would have accrued had its perpetrators been lesser, had been let's say savage men from the lands of the Southrons, for instance. So basically, the corruption of the best results in the worst, right?
Yes.
So that was kind of it. With the 3 instances of kinslaying.
So can we talk more about how you're a simp for Galadriel?
Oh my god.
I'm kidding.
Okay, have I actually sent you this meme?
No, I haven't.
That I made a while ago. Okay, just.
We haven't actually talked since this conversation, so. But
Yeah.
something I made my video on kind of why I think the fantasy genre has failed, after Tolkien. Everyone just keeps trying to, because my general thesis in it is that, people can watch the video, please watch it, but
Yeah.
my thesis in it is basically in comparison to science fiction has kind of always remained relevant because ever since the days of Jules Verne and onwards, it's dealing with directly, essentially, massive advancement of industrialization and technology and how that's affecting people. As fantasy, it's outside, unless it's Tolkien and it's basically creating an entire mythology, an entire history.
Yeah.
It's just gonna everything just apes off of him.
Yeah.
And
exactly, yeah.
because
people are lazy, they want a quick buck and they don't want to work.
And it's
Who wants to work, right?
Because my next video, I keep putting this one off, but it's basically my argument is, I don't know how familiar you are with either of these, but it's why I think that the Imperium of Man from 40K is actually less dystopian than the United Federation of Planets in Star Trek. Because essentially Star Trek, it's in the Federation and Star Trek, essentially it's completely secular, atheistic. There's no culture. At any time people are playing instruments or reading books, they're all just fetishizing things from centuries ago. New art isn't produced, new fashions don't exist.
Yeah.
It's the meme is when Galadriel gives Frodo the file of the, what's the light called?
It's the star glass, the light of the Silmaril character.
Yeah, but it's seen from the movie when Galadriel gives that to Frodo, and she says, "And you, ring bearer, I come to you last, who are not less than my thoughts. For you I prepared this. It is my file, is my bathwater."
Ugh. Yeah.
Ugh. But don't you go, you're the one that sent it to me. But my point is that if in Star Trek, if you look at how because they bring all the civilians onto their ship, which is a very smart idea. The civilian clothing is all just so ugly and uncreative. It's they're wearing just rags or robes of just different colors, and all the uniforms are just stark and just to be functional as possible. And I made this comparison is because Argent made a great video kind of talking about how the Empire in Star Wars is very much akin to fascism, including the fact that the aesthetic is it's extremely modern and minimalistic. And I just showed an Enterprise, a Galaxy class Enterprise, or the Enterprise D from Star Trek Next Generation, kind of the flagship. It's just the stupid pizza cutter looking thing that's just about as gray and boring and lifeless as an Imperial class Star Destroyer, as opposed to an Emperor class battleship from 40K. That thing is a Gothic cathedral spaceship. And so it's people have nothing, and people like Captain Picard, James Kirk, William Riker, Cisco Janeway, is these people could not exist in the society that Star Trek has made, because like Picard is like this old school kind of French, gentleman, and like Riker and Picard and Kirk are like these all American good boys, kind of 1950s movie star types. Those things could not exist.
Whereas speaking just for myself, I have never watched a single episode of any of the Star Wars, the Star Trek shows, because I just found the entire thing like super cringe.
The thing is that outside of that, even though that's kind of in the back of your mind, the vast majority of Star Trek, it's still just kind of nice, fun science fiction of like, here's an ethical problem that we have to deal with, and like, here's how we're going to deal with it. And a lot of them is that it's actually kind of nice. But like a thing Ben McLean, like an older friend of mine who's a lot more into Star Trek than I am, pointed out, is that because in Star Trek you have the idea of the Prime Directive, which is essentially we are not allowed to interfere in any way with a civilization or species that has not yet developed faster than light travel and contacted us. So it's like we can't play. The idea is like, oh, we can't play God. And the thing is, I think when you think about it more deeply, the Prime Directive is possibly the most evil concept in science fiction, because it makes the Federation unbelievably hypocrites, because their whole thing is, oh, we're xenophiles, like we don't discriminate based on race, on gender, on species even. But like their most important value is that they discriminate based on your level of technology, which, given the kind of atheistic secular progressives that love Star Trek the most, that's what they would.
Don't you see though that according to them, right? According to what they believe, discriminating against someone on behalf of what their level of technology is, that doesn't constitute any. That isn't bad, because technology level, it is completely objective as opposed to
it's the chart
subjective.
It's the chart atheist post where it shows like scientific development over time and how Christianity brings it down, like the objective. Oh, we measure what science is. This is we have more science. It's like when you're playing a 4X game, you need more science resource. But
it's kind of like the knowledge resource for Rise of Nations.
Yeah, but like so like essentially your value of life, or whether or not you have a point, whether or not you have a right to live in Star Trek, is based on how fast your ships go, or if you have ships. And it's like, because you could have, an example I'm going to use is, you could have two planets that are basically exactly the same, that each one of them has, there's a meteor that's going to fly towards the planet. And there's a Federation ship right outside of each planet, and that could easily redirect the asteroid and save the whole planet. And the thing is, the only difference there is between whether or not one planet gets saved and one is sanctioned to die is, oh, well, this planet has faster than light travel and this one doesn't.
Yes.
And the thing is, this is worse than in 40K when the Imperium will enact exterminatus on a planet, because that is a decision that the person enacting it, I think, like, you have to be like an Astartes chapter master or like a High Inquisitor or something very high level to do that. That's a decision that they have to make, as opposed to, we're just going to do this disgusting thing of, we're going to throw up our hands and say, well, we can't do anything because, the Prime Directive was created by the Vulcans, or it's kind of derived from the philosophy of the Vulcans, and who better to understand space ethics than the soulless, emotionless space elves?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
in comparison in 40K, right? You have this. There's the probably one of the darkest stories of it, and I can't even really describe what happens, but it's called the Demunculaba, and basically, chaos has captured people, and they're undergoing the most horrifying torture imaginable. They still manage to build a little statue of the Emperor that helps them in the end. And just even that is, like, the people... I know you've kind of said... I've heard, like... And I kind of agree, Peter Hitchens is kind of cringe, just the fact that he's constantly complaining. But there's a quote from him that makes a lot of... That's very apt for this, which is, like, him talking about how, like, people in Britain, like, say, back in the 50s, were dirtier, poorer, and, you know, less well off than they are now, but they at least, like, knew what their country was. And in the Imperium of Man, people live way shorter lives, they're way less healthier, they're way less, you know, objectively better off, but, like, they at least have something to believe in. And
I'm just curious, though, doesn't that, doesn't how long someone lives in the Imperium, doesn't that actually depend on who, on whether or not they live in a hive planet or something?
Oh, it does. I mean, it's very in the Imperium, like it's like you can have people that live for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years or thousands of years, like you know, and that's like, you know, if you've gotten all these cybernetics in you, or if you're a, like, extremely powerful psyker, or if you're a space marine because you're genetically modified, or you know, you're gonna live to be 30 or something if you're, you know, just some schlub working in a factorum on a hive city.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny with 40K is the fact that because the steps you go through becoming a 40K fan as somebody on the right is you go, oh, cool, all this kind of Catholic, you know, right-wing aesthetics, and then you think, oh, well, they're basically making fun of all of this. Like, the Games Workshop, like, is kind of portraying reactionary ideas as this is evil, but then you make the next step, which is, actually, no, we have to support the Imperium, because regardless of what Games Workshop kind of developed over the years, the thing is, the circumstances they've put the Imperium in make all of their actions 100% justified. Like, literally, they can't. How do you have diplomacy when you have the Dark Eldar, who, like, literally get life force off of causing as much torturing and suffering as they possibly can? Like, and I think in the end, it's like, in contrast to, you know, what we were saying earlier of Cardinal Dolan wanting to attend a demon's dinner party, this is a universe in which evil is out and out kind of shown, and they it's showing people actively fighting evil. And people really... And the thing is, the people fighting evil aren't... The evil is not portrayed as just being a thinly veiled conservative philosophy like it is in Harry Potter or the Avengers.
Or in The Handmaid's Tale. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because Christianity, like... Because clearly, you know, the vast majority of Orthodox Christians, you know, want that.
Yes.
That's how it would work out. Like, no, there's no idea of, like, we have, you know, Christianity is not known for having an idea of the traditional family. No. We just have, we've always had the idea of setting certain women aside as breeders. Yeah.
Yes.
But
setting certain women aside as sneeders. Yeah.
But, like, it's like but it's funny is thinking back, because speaking on superheroes, because I fucking hate the superhero genre. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it. And it makes me just disgusted as a weeb, knowing that, like, oh, like anime. What's the most popular anime? Oh, My Hero Academia. It's about superheroes. Oh. And, like, the thing is with the Avengers, right, is, you know, cucks and soy boys are so into it, is, like, I think my theory is that it's kind of wrapped around being a power fantasy, right? Instead of them just being, of them trying to say, oh no, it's super deep and whatever. Because, like, I saw one post after the January 6th thing where a guy's talking about how he envisions Captain America would beat the crap out of, like, American protesters and, like, would execute and
it isn't really a crime to be a cretin, but you shouldn't be a cretin regardless.
Yeah,
that's my opinion on these people.
But yeah, and it's like they have this fantasy of, like, you know, it's like the left wing fantasy of they have this group of Ubermensch that are just fanatically and robotically loyal to, like, neoliberalism. Because I kind of think the idea of the organization SHIELD is, like, basically like NATO, or it's certainly along the same political alignment as that. And so its idea is that these people will not. It wouldn't surprise me.
Something just occurred to me, and I'm sorry to butt in for a second.
No, it's fine.
But it's in non-superhero fiction, the idea of like a secret task force of super soldiers and such, it extends even to, like, serious techno thriller fiction. So it extends even to someone like Tom Clancy and his Rainbow Six series. I don't know. Like, have you read the book?
No, I tried to read a bit of Tom Clancy and I couldn't do it because I thought it was.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not a neocon boomer, so no, I have not read Tom Clancy.
I've read tons of Tom Clancy. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just
that's
sorry.
Fine.
Yeah.
But my point, but on what I was talking about is the fact that it's like, you know, going on progressive logic on their line of reasoning is like, well, anybody that is in disagreement with us, somebody asks what's wrong with boomers, everything is wrong with boomers. But
everything is wrong with boomers.
But but I'm 27 now, so I am a boomer. So
yeah.
But
I have been a spiritual boomer all along.
Mm-hmm. You're actually 57 years old.
Yeah.
But, like, my point is that, like, I would not be surprised if future comic books basically have, like, the idea that anybody that is right-wing or is in any way opposition to progressivism or neoliberalism, well, they're such a dangerous threat, such a disgusting, scum of the earth that, you could just have, like, Captain America beating the shit out of any conservatives or, like, Tea Party members or something like that. If he's wearing a red hat, kill him, Cap.
Didn't we already have that with a Red Skull?
Yes, but, like, I mean, Red Skull is a literal Nazi, but, of course, these people think that everybody is a Nazi.
Okay.
I mean, I do read Manga. I read mangoes on my Korean basket weaving forums. No, Seth Z. Notch made that joke, but...
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, to me at least, it's like, anime is at least interesting. Manga is at least, like, there's creativity to it, and, like, there's an end. Whereas, like,
yeah.
I cannot get into superhero comics because they're like, oh, people say, like, Spider-Man's good because it's a nice simple story of he's got superhero powers, but, like, he's a poor kid. So it's just, like, him being, like, trying to be a normal person and, like, save people. But it's like, okay, but you have to read this specific series of Spider-Man made by this specific writer in like the 90s, and I'm like, why can't I just start at the beginning? Whereas like with manga,
Yeah.
it's just you go, okay, issue 1, volume 1, chapter 1, start,
Yeah.
done.
Nah, man, it it's not immersive that way. It's not very immersive.
No, we have to reboot it every 5 years, and now Spider-Man has to be a fat black girl. Why can't?
Oh God, have they done that?
No, they still have him as the half black, half Puerto Rican kid.
Oh, I did not know this. I mean, okay, I'm gonna say something that's going to permanently establish my image as a hopeless boomer. It's that, okay, so far as I'm concerned, Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire. Sorry, not sorry.
I mean, I haven't seen those movies in like 20 years, so I can't really say much. I think I've seen all of those ones
basically
once.
Tobey Maguire for me. That's who Spider-Man is. So, yeah.
But speaking of Spider-Man, I was thinking about this is because we are both, of course, loyal to Papa Francis. Like, he may not be perfect, but we I'm thinking is the bad trads, the ones like the Dr. Taylor Marshalls and his folk, the ones who just will do anything to not be loyal to the Pope. Because Catholicism is about, hating the Pope, and instead of actually accepting his authority. But, like a few weeks ago, Pope Francis kind of congratulated and shook the hand of a guy dressed as Spider-Man in the Vatican, who gave him a little Spider-Man mask. But the thing is, and people are going to take that out of context and say, oh, see, this is the Pope with more modernist nonsense. No, literally, the guy does that because he dresses up on his free time to help entertain kids in children's hospitals.
No, see the thing about Francis, like Tyrion and I were talking as we tend to. We were talking on our team speak, and Tyrion was like, the thing about Pope Francis is that his end game, it's not establishing the new world order or anything. He just wants to be on a liberal's bedroom wall, along with a picture of Madonna or Ariana Grande. That's what he wants.
Madonna's already going to hell, though. The fact that she stole the lady, our Blessed Lady's name, so she could be a degenerate, is just disgusting.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Pope Francis has never actually done anything that is even close to being heretical.
Exactly.
But he can say as much stuff as he wants, but it's like he's almost kind of like a duck. In that Pope Francis is a duck because on the surface he's like loud and maybe he's more like a goose, right? But he's like always loud, like from what people get, he's always saying stuff. He's constantly quacking, and people will interpret that one way or another. But under the surface, he's actually getting work done, like in terms of things he's actually done, right? Like he's done stuff to help clean up Vatican finances and done a lot of that stuff. And like again, earlier this year, I don't know how anybody can think like, oh, he's pro homosexuality when he literally just like approved a statement saying, we cannot bless sin. The case closed on this.
He just wants to be on the UNICEF trick or treat box.
Mm-hmm. Some people want the Pope to talk like Paul. So they want him to talk like an autistic, weird, like loser. Paul is not. Paul is not.
The thing is, like,
Paul has not been the same since 2014. It has.
So as based as that would be, the Pope that spoke like someone from Pole would get assassinated in like a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to.
Oh, hey, Tyrellian.
Imagine. No, I'm just trying to imagine something. So basically, the Pope comes out of his balcony, right? And he's holding up a huge sign, and the sign has
The sign is
and
saying
he
it is
has
saying
and the sign basically just says 13 and 50. That's
no, no.
that's what he says.
I was thinking it comes out. The Pope is actually Guy Fieri, and he's holding up a sign that says, "You're instead of you're going to hell, it just says you're going to Flavortown."
Oh God. No, well, Francis just says, yeah, 1350. That's what the sign says.
The answer to 1488 is 1350.
Yeah, the answer to 1488 is 1350. I think in the chat, a Terlian just said Francis wants his portrait next to a liberal's bedroom of the Dalai Lama.
How liberal is the Dalai Lama, though? I mean, ultimately,
the thing with the Dalai Lama is, I don't even know if he himself knows. He just says a lot of things that he doesn't really want to.
I mean, because there is a big difference between.
Yeah, he says different things to different people.
There is a big difference between Buddhism as practiced by Buddhists and Buddhism as practiced by white women.
Yeah.
So,
yes, there's a very great difference.
I don't know. Isn't the extreme, non-syncretic form of Buddhism Theravada? Or what's the
So there's the greater vehicle, there's the lesser vehicle, and then there's the diamond vehicle, the Vajrayana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mahayana and Theravada. So Theravada is basically lesser vehicle. The thing about the Dalai Lama is that he doesn't really speak for every single Buddhist.
Mm-hmm.
And Theravada is the more minimalistic of the three Buddhist traditions.
Mm-hmm.
So it has claims to being the more authentic Buddhism. It's kind of complicated, and it's
I don't know if this is how insulting this is to you, but somebody's thought you're from Sri Lanka in the chat. I mean,
no, I just said I'm Bengali.
I'm just thinking, how much of an insult is it to call you a Sri Lankan?
Hey man, like,
we all have a cross to bear.
I mean, at least he said Sri Lankan, and at least he didn't say Tamil or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or don't you prefer to call it Ceylon?
Ceylon, yeah.
Ceylon. And then there's the fact. I do love the fact that there's a city in it called Kandy.
Its capital is called Colombo, right?
Yeah, named after the 1970s cop show or detective show. What else? Because we went over most of what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's been about an hour and a half. Anything else you'd like to add? I mean, one last remark I'd make is after seeing your last stream with Argent, it does make me very sad knowing that apparently a lot of the Catholics in India are very liberal and paused.
Oh, they are. So Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest, most populous state in India, they're now drafting a population control bill that says that if you have more than 2 kids, you cannot apply for any government jobs, and you will also not qualify for any government subsidies. I cannot wait to see how that shit backfires.
Well, it worked
I
great
just
for the
cannot.
Chinese, didn't it?
I mean, no, like imagine saying something like that to the Muslims, right? Or to even some of the more orthodox Hindu segments in Uttar Pradesh. I mean, for fuck's sake, Uttar Pradesh has Benares, right?
Where is that? Where in India is that?
So it's the northern, so it's the northern plains, the Indo-Gangetic
Okay,
plains
so
of the
just
Indian
south
subcontinent.
of the Himalayas.
Yes, south
Okay.
of the Himalayas, about 350,
You know,
400 miles
what's
south
been
of the
bizarre for
Himalayas.
me is at my previous job, I don't know what is, but like we had a ton, like about a third of my coworkers were from Nepal. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, there's not even a very large Nepalese population in the United States. Apparently, they all lived around this area. And it was kind of like a culture shock, or it was a bit of a shock talking to them because, like, half of, like, they look East Asian but sound Indian.
Yes.
They're very nice, but, like, you know,
Yeah, they're not exactly bad people. I mean,
no.
I have a cousin who married a Nepali woman,
Mm-hmm.
and their kid. So basically, what happened was,
They're,
because she comes from a super tribal family, because the Nepalese even now are organized according to tribes. So there are
well, that's
the
based.
Sherpas, the Dorjis, the Gurungs, and so on and so forth, right? So my cousin's wife's tribe disowned her, and they basically had a bounty on my cousin's head, so he couldn't go to the northeast of India until their child was born, and they only accepted him into the fold when the child was born, and they gave my cousin, like, they gave him, like, they formally accepted him into their tribe by giving him intricately worked shawls made of lamb's wool and things like that. It was actually kind of fun. Like, they said that they couldn't, said they were bound to do that because their tribal traditions dictated that unless a child is born of an exogamous union, that union is to be treated as an an unspeakable evil. So that's a pretty good thing. That was yeah,
It is
that's one
based.
of
It
the
is based in tribe build.
yeah
To be
basic
honest,
tribe.
I mean, people all come from tribes. I mean, it just happens to be that, you know, we think tribe means civilized. I was going to think, I was about to make a reference to, well, look at the Scottish clans, but I
Yes,
was talking about, no,
they're tribes.
but like, yeah, but they're not civilized. Obviously, they're Scottish. Jeez, they'd eat haggis. I'm of English descent, so I get to say that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but like, kind of to wrap up, the last thing I was gonna say, and it's kind of my thoughts, because you're uh, is about a lot of these kind of, you know.
Pardon. Could you please say that again?
No, I was just kind of mumbling, trying to
Oh,
organize
okay.
my speech.
Okay, fair
It
enough.
is the
Fair enough.
fact that, see, I'm the opposite of an autistic. I have OCD and ADHD, so like I can't concentrate on anything.
Okay.
But like, my thought is, people like Bishop Barron and the kind of Americanist Catholics, I
Yeah.
think they're kind of doing the opposite of what we should be doing. Like, you have the idea of, we want our Empire of Guadalupe, and uh like we're going to like keep these like weird American ideas, even though we don't have any of the population or culture of
I
this place. Like,
mean, this entire empire Guadalupe thing is like it's so transparently,
Stupid.
it's so transparently astroturfed. Like,
Also, it's like the thing is like, oh, if we bring
didn't
it,
it start with that guy? What's his face? Adrian Vermeulen.
I don't
Isn't that
know.
who it started with?
But I'm thinking is the fact that first off, when you bring in like Latin Americans are already falling to atheism and evangelicalism, so what makes you think bringing them here is going to make us? It's not going to make us more Catholic. It's going to make them more American.
Yeah,
it's the same thing of like it's
like that meme, right? The West is making Muslims gay faster than the Muslims can make the West Muslim.
Yeah, and you never think compared to 5 years ago, I'd be like, you know what? Let the Taliban have Afghanistan. It's better that than them flying gay flags everywhere. But like, anyways, my point is, what I would want is the opposite, because I hate the whole idea that America is basically only a country of ideas. We have no culture, no ethnicity, nothing. Even though I am walking proof that that's not true. My ancestors came here in the 1630s. I am a WASP through and through, outside of the fact that, you know, I converted to Catholicism. Yeah. But like, you know, and speaking of Lovecraft and stuff like that, is even now, like, Lovecraft's work, Edgar Allan Poe, all that stuff. I'm not going to mention Mark Twain because I fucking hate Mark Twain.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I
fucking hate Mark Twain so much. Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, but Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen Foster, the composer, Thomas Cole, the artist, you know, their works, me too. Their works are going to have already outlived like Jeffersonian democracy. Yeah. It's like people are going to still talk about Lovecraft and Poe and like, oh, these are like actual respectable things, and it's like what I want, and we have what people on the right, have a golden opportunity right now, especially with stuff like have you seen the NFL had a commercial where it's just a black background and white text that literally just says football is gay, football is trans, football is freedom, football is everything. I'm thinking
I don't watch sports ball.
Neither do I. I mean, it's no better with soccer. I mean, you know, international football, because
same. I was referring to soccer anyway. So,
but it's it's like seeing I mean, there's not even any point in having national teams if it's like, oh, actually, I'm gonna read. Somebody who was very generous and gave a super chat. Glow in the Dark for $5 said, I think most fantasy stories don't work because fantasy is based, it's true, is based more in metaphysical realm and non-materialistic than the fantastical and such. I mean, I guess the point is fantasy can work if you're actually coming from a metaphysical background like Tolkien.
I mean, yeah,
if you're just like, well,
this is just not true. This is objectively not true. I mean, fantasy. I would say that the exact reverse is true. Fantasy, in order to work, needs a very solid metaphysical grounding, because otherwise, if you don't have a metaphysical grounding, how on earth are you going to divide? How on earth are you going to distinguish the fantastic from the mundane, right?
There's nothing better than an Indian saying "fantastic," but yes. I'm sorry, but what I was saying earlier is thank you for this super chat. I don't know where the money goes, but to YouTube probably, but there is the idea of like these. It's the same thing with the Olympics are just going to be an embarrassment for Western countries, because it's just like, rather than having teams comprised of people that are like a representation of your country or your region, like countries like France, Britain, Italy, Germany, they just like, okay, we're just gonna scout out and like hire like African mercenaries to be part of our team who have no connection to our culture, ethnicity, language, or anything. And like, what's the point? what's the point of watching it? And same thing of like in American football, where it's like you'll have players on teams that don't represent the city or area they come from in any way. It's just who's the most perfect genetic specimen.
I just love the mercenary expression.
Yeah, there's also ideas of like people have
very well.
Yeah, people have compared like when they're examining like young college athletes, they compared it to like how they would examine the slaves, because they're just like doing the same thing of like, look, we want to find the most perfect genetic specimen so we can buck break them. I mean, turn them into football stars. And it's just like it's just so unfair, because it's like you have ideas. This is my rant, right, of why I hate the sporting industry. Like, if people want to go to I've had fun going to like a local small like minor league game, or like some people want to go like see a base. That's fine, but like the whole industry built on it is just disgusting. Of like, okay, we're gonna get these kids into colleges, so we're gonna take resources and jack up the tuition costs and cost of living for people that actually want to learn something real and like get an actual degree, so they can have all these sports kids come in and like, you know what, we're not going to have them, they're not going to ever actually need to study or do any real work outside of the bare minimum, because we're just going to pressure the rest of the teachers in the school to let them slide by, because they get, they're playing sports ball, they don't have to abide by the same standards, they rape a girl, who cares, Let's slide that under the bus, or let's sweep that under the rug. Nobody else has rights. Oh,
sliding that under the bus works as well.
Yeah. Oh, since everything.
I just saw the good student asked, "What did Mark Twain do?" I'm gonna tell you what Mark Twain did. Mark Twain wrote A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the vilest books I've ever read.
Is it basic? I haven't read
so many levels.
I haven't read it, but isn't it basically like an American liberal like goes back and like fixes the past?
Basically just destroys
Arthurian legend.
Yeah. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Like
Yeah.
It shows every single thing that's so wrong. So it's basically, imagine a beautiful Botticelli painting, right? Imagine Madonna of the Books, right? Imagine that painting. And so a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court is to the Arthurian legends what a poisonous slug just crawling and moving over and leaving behind a trail of toxic slime is to Botticelli's
Madonna
paintings.
of the Book, yes.
Yeah, Madonna of the Book.
Yeah, and I believe you there. Like, I like a lot of other American stuff. Again, like Edgar Allan Poe is like a master of like American Gothic writing, like, and H.P. Lovecraft took that and like took it further and into creating cosmic horror, and like there's a deep cultural kind of sense you have, because he and I both come from a WASP lineage. I do love I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like somebody posted like H.P. Lovecraft, when he finds out he has 5% Welsh DNA, and it's just like from like one of the books, like from like Shadow over Innsmouth, when the guy's like, I looked into the mirror and I saw this disgusting pale reflection, and just how disgusted he is by himself. But it's like a lot of the stories are just like these very weird small knit communities in like rural New England, and it's like and it's just like that's an actual expression of culture, as opposed to like you ask whatever boomer or conservative, what is American culture? It's freedom and NASCAR. And my point is, and this is a lesson we can kind of close on, is like conservatives completely ceded the fine arts to the libs. and then they said we're just going to embrace this low culture of like low culture is beer, NASCAR, football, sports ball that's owned by these massive corporations that absolutely hate you now. And the thing is that modern sports, like stuff like basketball, volleyball, football, all that stuff, a lot of them were just developed, you know, ironically enough, in the late 19th and early 20th century by like physicians and nutritionists and stuff like that to foster people like having a healthy lifestyle of, you know, playing a game, you know, exercising. And now it's completely based on getting people to sit down, eat things, and watch advertisements. That's all sports are now.
Yeah.
And like
so let's just agree that it may be based on something, but it's actually not based.
No. Oh, it's based, all right. No, it's not. It is cringe, and it's like, people playing sports is fine, but people watching, again, if you're like in a small minor league game or something, you're actually going out, I can see that's fine, but like sitting, people like sitting for 4 hours.
Yeah, sitting in front of the fucking TV for 4 hours.
Jeez, I mean, I like
watching sports on the telly.
Yes, and getting fat drinking while doing it. And then it's like you have fantasy football, which is like, let's take all the social problems that come from sports and add gambling on top of that. That's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's disgusting. But like, in any case, conservatives, we should just start saying, no, like, look, if we actually want to preserve culture, like, the Constitution is not culture. Like, I gotta say, the Declaration of Independence is not.
It's not.
No, it's politics. It is surface politics. I don't want to live in a country that is. It's like if a country's entire culture and identity was based around its founding document, like, okay, like Germany, right, actually has, you know, I mean, what they should be is like being praised of like, oh, we have, you know, Beethoven and Bach and Wagner and, you know, the Brothers Grimm and Goethe, you know, that's our culture, as opposed to, it's just, our culture apparently will just shift from the 1871 Constitution, the Weimar Republic, Nazi Germany, and like the federal church. It's like completely wildly different things apparently are going to form your culture now, if that's what it's based on, as opposed to as Americans, I think we should, you know, we reclaim Lovecraft, Poe, and it's like things are collapsing.
And Walker Percy.
Yes, and Flannery O'Connor.
He's this one guy who doesn't get enough exposure.
Yes, and also Flannery O'Connor and Gene Wolfe, but like,
I think Gene Wolfe is very difficult to claim for yourself because I find his writing very difficult to.
But in any case,
you
get the point, and it's that like, if our culture and everything, if our society, green text, is collapsing, like, you're thinking about like your house is on fire, you got to get out, and and the thing is, if my house is on fire and I could either bring out like the collected works of H.P. Lovecraft or the Constitution, I'm taking H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes,
because that's actually that's like something that speaks beyond politics.
That's the reasonable thing to do.
Yep.
It's a psyop to suggest that a
political document that is just
is of greater importance than that. Yeah.
Yep. So, is there anything else you want to mention? How about you can you plug your podcast you do at Cerulean? I've already linked it in the description of the video.
Okay, so guys, just go and give it a listen. It's called Isildur's Shack, and Fritz tells me that he has put the link in already. So yes, just give it a listen. Terlian and I are planning to put out some more episodes soon. We haven't been able to since 13th June, I think, is when we published our last episode, because I've been busy with schoolwork, because so my thesis, I mean, I have to write it, and I'm like over like 40% done with writing it. So yeah, I'm going to do that.
If I may ask, what is your degree in?
So the general region is South Asian theology in the colonial era, and my research topic deals with what effects Hindu and Christian exchanges had on the formation of Hindu nationalism.
I work for a living now. Like, I got my college degree in history, and I didn't really...
Oh, based.
Well, I couldn't really... Well, no, because I couldn't really do much with it after graduation. Thankfully, thank God I have no debt, because of, I have rich grandparents and a dead...
small mercies, man. Small mercies.
Yeah, I have no... That's a big mercy. I have no debt. But, like, now I'm basically... I work like a... I'm a quality control inspector for a hunting company that makes hunting bows. And, which is
so fucking awesome, dude.
No, and I work with, like, a bunch of, like, redneck conservative boomers. So it's kind of...
Based.
No, and so it's bizarre. Like, I talk like the most left-wing person there because I'm kind of the more educated one. But, like, my politics are way more right-wing than them because I'd be like, well, I don't really like Steven Crowder because he's way too left-wing for me.
Yeah.
But, like, that's better than, you know, HR has to...
anyone who doesn't, you know, talk about genocide like 90% of the time. Yeah.
But
my politics, that's not politics.
Yeah. But, like, so it's pretty good. Like, I'm actually working a real job and earning money as opposed to being it. I recognize this. I'm going full boomer now, and I'm like, wait, I realized recently I don't receive any money from the government. Like, I don't get any... I'm not on government healthcare anymore. I'm not on... You know, I'm not receiving any help. So I can just say, I think taxation is theft. And I can just tell people on Twitter, get a job. And it's... Thing is, like, this is my last controversial opinion, right? It's better to be a wagey than a neat.
Yes. Yes. Not working, right? Just
you're a parasite.
Damages the soul.
I mean, I was that and I can very much attest to that. It's disgusting. You feel
it damages
awful.
The soul. There's just no getting around the fact.
People like are kind of do the counter signaling now of like they're going so much against the Protestant work ethic that they're now just like, well, like the true European Catholic mindset should just be siesta all day. No.
Answer the good student. No, the Meme Friar is not on YouTube, but since I plan on starting a YouTube channel with Tyrillian, I think that I will be on YouTube shortly because you can do streams on Anchor FM, and there are people I want to do streams with, and yeah. And Paul asks, is it nice Meme Friar from Twitter? Yes. My Twitter handle is now Friar NM, I think. Is that what it is? Yeah, it's Friar NM. So yeah, so this is my new account because my old one got nuked.
I'm like the one person... I'm the one person that, like, I've been on since 2016. My Twitter account has not gotten banned. It's gotten suspended a few times, but it's never gotten completely banned. And, like, I'm the one person that it hasn't happened to.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, well, it was lovely.
It was very wonderful, yes. Good luck with everything. God bless.
Yeah.
I'll see y'all later. Hopefully, new video will come out whenever.